Hello techies. Welcome to our brand new video series focused on helping you get the most of your experiences in life. Before we start the video, let's know about Upptalk. Upptalk is a live, interactive platform for software training, furnishing robust personalities who could take on universal business platforms.
So that took the total number of fields to 85. But for each of those calculations, they were multiple calculations within one calculation. We will see when we do calculated. So that just increased the number of number of computations work. So that's what they had to do to generate that report. That report started taking 2.5 hours to run. So just imagine the load that report is creating on that system. I had no other option. I had to choose all workers. But my point is, you may have to create reports, which take a lot of time because you are dealing with a large volume of data. So in that case, choosing the right data source becomes very, very important. Okay. If you are creating a report on your expense reports or any other kind of transactional data, like if you are doing something in terms of finance, like journals, there will be hundreds and thousands of journal entries per day. Right. If you are doing a monthly report, your report has to have the right data source, otherwise it will not complete within 2.5 hours. Okay. So choosing the right data source becomes very, very important. Now, can anybody access everybody's data source? Can everybody access all the data sources in the work system? Let's say you are from the payroll team. Can you access a data source from benefits? Or maybe you are from benefits. Can you access something from payroll? No. The answer is no. Because the access is defined at the data source level. Right. Each data source is secured by some security parameters, like some domain security policy permissions, so domain security policy. So you have to control, you have to allow, you have to have access to that data source if you are to create a report. If you do not have access to that data source, you will not be able to create a report out of it. Okay. But typically, if you are working as a report writer, if you are focused on creating reports, then you will be part of what kind of security group? So report writer. It was an example of a kind of security group. What kind of security group that has to end-wide access? Oh, I'm sorry. Come again. Report writer. What kind of security group will a report writer be in? Unconstrained. Correct. Unconstrained. And what was the example of the unconstrained security group that we worked with? Security administrator, the administrative administrator, kind of. Yes. So report writer is one such security group. So my question is, what type of security? Unconstrained is fine, but what? What kind of security? User-based. Yes, it is a user-based security group, because user-based security groups are unconstrained. Yeah. So report writer, a person who is working as a report writer, will be part of such a user-based security group, so they will have system-wide access. And for the data sources where you need to create a report, the report writer will be given access to that data source because it is controlled by security. Okay. If you do not have access to the data source, you will not be able to create a report using that. Now, how do we find out the list of all the data sources? There is a report which does that for us. The Data Sources report lists all world data labor data sources grouped by their primary business object. Okay. So there will be a business object based on which the data source is created. So the Data Sources report will list the work date, data sources. Again, another important point. While choosing your data source, use index data sources wherever possible. These are optimized for better performance, aggregation, and phase of filtering on large volumes of data. So whenever you are working with reports, if you are dealing with large volumes of data, try to go for a data source that is indexed, because it will give you better performance. I recently attended a certification training on quality reporting, and there our instructor stressed on this point. A lot of times, like always, try to use index data sources. They even said that in my certification exam, they will deduct marks if I do not use an index data source. So this is very, very important. Highly recommended by Workday. Okay. So let's see what is this fuss all about? About this data sources. So let's go into Workday. And let's try to run this data sources report. Now what I would ask you to do is to run this report data sources and take the extract. Okay. Take the dump and save it somewhere, so that you have it in Excel. You are able to search and find out what are the data sources, because there are many data sources. It may not be easy to search for the data source in the UI. Okay. But I would say, take an export, save it in your local computer. So how many are there? Okay, let's wait for it to finish. How many data sources are there? Can you see it's grayed out? 2446. Yeah, there are over 2,400, the close to 2,446 data sources in Workday, right? So you can export this to Excel, right? There is this button right here. This export to Excel, and keep it available. Right, so that it's easy to find it, it's easy to filter there, and you are able to identify which are the data sources. Alright, I think it's refreshed. Let me cancel this out. Alright, here it is. So there are 2,446 data sources. Now you see, for each data source, there is a primary business object. This is the object on which this data source is built. Right. And there are some prompts. There is a description for it. And then it also talks about whether it is a standard data source or whether it is an index data source. You see the point here? The point that I was mentioning, a standard data source versus an index data source. Okay. So I would say that when you run this report, you always filter by this text. Right. Try to type about this and look at only the index data sources. Right. Half of them round up 1, 2, 4, 8 report data sources are there which are index data sources. So you have enough. Right. Let's look at the workers. Let's look at as the worker. I mean all the data sources which have a worker in it. Like all workers is there all contingent workers is one, right? And then there is another one called as there are quite a few with workers. I'm looking for a one which starts with IIJK, indexed all workers. Right, if I look at that, you see the indexed all workers. What does it all about? It says this data source provides access to currently workers, currently active workers, and workers with a future hire or contract date. So that means this gives us everything, right? This gives us all the data that we want all the workers, but it is the for a data source. Compare that with the all workers, didn't? I choose all workers, I choose right.
Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us at sales@uptalk.com.